Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a short video and experiment on refraction of visible light. We've been learning about the electromagnetic spectrum, and as you know, visible light is on the electromagnetic spectrum, round about in the middle of it, with infrared on one side and ultraviolet on the other. So to do today's experiment, you can actually do this yourself at home, and all you will need is a glass of water, a pen and a piece of paper. Okay, let's get started. So start by drawing two arrows. You can colour them in. Okay, so I have now placed my arrows, both pointing to the right, in just behind this is just a plastic beaker. You can use glass, it works just as well, okay? So as you can see, I've got my arrows just facing to the right, and I'm now going to pour some water into the beaker and see if anything happens. And as you can see, my arrow, bottom arrow, that is just underneath the waterline or behind where the waterline is, has now turned to the left. Now, just to double check, if I move away my beaker of water to reveal the bottom arrow is still turning to the right. So why is that now looking to be turning to the left? So this is all about the refraction of light and how the direction of light changes as it passes through a different material. Now, just to check, I'm just going to move the beaker of water over and just pop a normal beaker with no water in it just in front. Okay, that has no effect. But when you pass the beaker with water in front, you can see that the arrow that is behind the water line appears to turn to the left. So I'm just going to explain in the next video how that works. So this is actually quite a cool, it's science, but you can actually impress your friends with it because it's like a cool magic trick. Okay, so just to explain, we need to understand how light travels. Okay, so light travels in a straight line. Now, in air, we'll have our light travelling in a straight line here. However, if this light hits a material that has a different density to air, so by that, something like water or glass or anything that's denser than air itself, it actually changes direction. So let's then put here a glass block, or in our case, let's pretend that this is our beaker that's full of water. Let's put the water line up here. So when the light actually enters the beaker itself, the beaker's material, which is very thin, but it is actually denser, so it is going to slightly change direction. Now, when it enters the water, because it's denser, it actually slows down, and this slowing down process causes it to change direction. So it would actually follow a path similar to this here. Now, sometimes we talk about bending of light. Technically, it's not bending. It looks a bit like it's bending, but it's actually just changing direction. That's the proper physics explanation anyway. So light is coming from the air here, and it enters the water, which is denser, and it causes it to slow down and change direction. Now, actually, when it exits the water beaker, it'd actually speed up again, wouldn't it? So it'd kind of look something a little bit like that. So this is actually refraction. So this process of when light enters a different medium, a different material, If it's denser, it slows down, it changes its direction, looks to be bending, and when it then comes out of the beaker of water into the air, it would speed up again, and then it would change its direction again, and this is what we call refraction. Now what we need to think about now is, why is it that the arrow looks to be pointing to the left when it's actually pointing to the right? So we're going to do a quick diagram with our arrow here pointing to the right, and we're going to make the beaker a circle here, as if we're looking at it from above, and obviously this has got the water in it here. Now we're going to make a couple of dash lines across the beaker for a reference point. Now we need to think about where the light is coming from. So the light's coming from the arrow, it's going through the beaker, it's being refracted, and then we're seeing the image of the arrow pointing the other way on the other side. So to explain how this happens, if you imagine first of all a couple of light rays coming from the arrow, let's say that one comes in at this angle, it's then going to be refracted, and let's say it exits at this angle here. Let's say that another one comes in at an angle such as this, it's then going to be refracted, and let's say then that it comes out at this angle here. So we understand that as the light rays enter the beaker with water, they're going to change direction because they're slowing down, and these are the new paths that they're taking. Now when you have an image, it's actually created, an image is created where two waves or paths cross. Now in terms of the orientation of the image is orientated from this sort of imaginary normal line to where these light waves pass or cross over here. So in terms of the image, this is why we have the arrow looking to be pointing to the left when actually the arrow is pointing to the right. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. So the learning points from the video are that light travels in straight lines. However, if it goes from one material to another that is denser, it will change its speed, therefore change its direction and seem to bend. And with some interesting effects, you can actually see this bending of light just with a simple experiment with an arrow and a beaker of water.